Subscribe before the truth disappears, because tonight, what looks like an accident isn't. The rain was still falling when the body was found. A slick suburban driveway, a toppled trash bin, a woman's lifeless figure face down beside a silver sedan. The first call came in at 6:42 a.m., a jogger reporting what looked like a fall. By the time Detective Erin Calloway arrived, the scene already had that eerie quiet that only bad news can summon. The woman's name was Samantha Dale, 35, graphic designer, recently divorced, lived alone. To anyone driving by, it looked like she'd slipped on the rain-slicked concrete. Her keys still clutched in one hand, her phone a few feet away, screen shattered, emergency call screen open but unsent. The EMT said it instantly, accidental fall, but Calloway's gut said otherwise. Rain had washed away much of the trace evidence, but the details gnawed at her. The position of Samantha's arm, the faint abrasion on her jawline, and the single cracked fingernail with dirt beneath it. None of it screamed accident, but in this town, Clearwater, Oregon, nothing screamed much anymore. By mid-morning, the coroner zipped the body bag shut. Another unfortunate death in the rain. Paperwork, signatures, move on. But as Calloway leaned into her cruiser to file her initial notes, an older neighbor approached, umbrella shaking. "You might want to check her porch camera," the woman said quietly. "There was someone there the night before. I saw lights, movement." The phrase lodged itself in Calloway's mind. There was someone there the night before. That afternoon, Detective Calloway and her partner Mark Danner stood in Samantha's small entryway. The house smelled faintly of lavender and burnt coffee. A sleek black doorbell camera blinked blue. Calloway connected the drive to her laptop. "Let's see what's so interesting," she muttered. The footage began innocently. Samantha coming home around 9:12 p.m., arms full of groceries. A quiet neighborhood under steady drizzle. She drops her keys, laughs at herself, waves at the lens like she knows someone might watch later. Then, at 9:47 p.m., the motion light triggers again. A man in a hooded raincoat steps into frame. He doesn't approach the door, he just stands there, still, watching. The porch light flickers, his reflection faint in the wet siding. Then the most unsettling part. He leans forward, almost as if listening. After 10 silent seconds, he turns and walks away. Danner leaned closer to the screen. "No sound?" "None," Calloway replied, adjusting the playback. "But look, his shoes. Those aren't hiking boots. Those are workman's soles, heavy tread." She paused the frame. A blur of his left hand, something metallic glinting between his fingers. Could be a tool, or... Before she could finish, her phone buzzed, the coroner. "Detective Calloway, we found bruising on the back of the neck, pre-mortem, not consistent with a fall." Calloway stared at the paused image, the faceless figure in the rain. It wasn't an accident. That evening, as the sky dimmed over Clearwater, police canvassed the street. Door to door, every neighbor, every vehicle logged. Most had nothing to offer, except one. A man across the cul-de-sac, Arthur Pike, claimed he'd seen a delivery truck, maybe Amazon, near Samantha's house around 10 p.m. "Didn't think much of it," he said, scratching his neck. "Those vans are everywhere these days." But Calloway noted something else. A small bandage wrapped around Pike's left thumb. "Mind if we ask how you got that?" Danner said. Pike chuckled nervously. "Oh, I sliced it making dinner." "Mind showing us your hands?" Calloway asked. He hesitated, then lifted both. The right hand, uninjured. The left, faintly trembling. When they left his porch, Calloway muttered, "He's lying." Danner shrugged. "Half the town lies when police knock on their door." "Yeah, but not all of them have a bandaged hand and a view of the victim's front yard." Later that night, Calloway returned to the precinct. Rain pattered against the windows, the hum of fluorescent lights her only company. She pulled up the doorbell footage again, replaying the moment the hooded man appeared. This time, she zoomed in, 300%, 400%. The image pixelated, but revealed just enough. The reflection in Samantha's glass storm door. Not the man's face, but a truck behind him, faintly visible through the rain. A white van. No company logo. She cross-referenced local traffic cams. One picked up a similar van turning off the main road around 9:50 p.m., heading toward Samantha Street. The license plate? Obscured. Still, something didn't fit. No break-in, no theft, no sign of struggle inside. Why approach the door, then leave? She replayed again, this time focusing on the light change. The man's silhouette moves as the porch light dims slightly, as if he's unscrewing the bulb. A deliberate act. A setup. At 1:07 a.m., Calloway was still at her desk when Danner called. "Got something weird," he said. "Remember Arthur Pike, the neighbor?" "Yeah." His name came up in another report. Domestic disturbance, 6 years ago. Guess who the responding officer was? "You?" "No. Samantha Dale." Calloway froze. She was a part-time dispatcher before she went full-time design freelance. She would have logged his report. Bingo. Looks like Pike didn't like being reported. Restraining order filed but dropped a month later. The storm outside deepened. Calloway turned back to the footage. The figure in the hood, the posture, the pause before turning away. Something about it. The tilt of the head, the right-hand tremor. Oh my God, it's him! By dawn, a warrant was in motion. But as officers rolled onto Pike's property, something was wrong. His van sat in the driveway, door slightly ajar, rain pooling on the seat. The engine cold. Inside the house, empty. No Pike, no signs of struggle. Only one thing on the kitchen counter. A small envelope. Inside it was a single USB drive. The label read, "For Detective Calloway." When she inserted it into her laptop, it autoplayed. A still frame from the same doorbell camera, but this time from inside Samantha's house. Someone had accessed her camera feed remotely, and in the reflection of the hallway mirror behind Samantha, a second figure moved. Someone else had been there that night.
The precinct was silent when the footage stopped. Just the whir of the computer fan and Detective Erin Calloway's shallow breathing. The reflection in the mirror was faint, but it was there. A second shape behind Samantha Dale, inside the house. She rewound it, frame by frame. The faint silhouette moved differently, slower, heavier, a broad-shouldered form. Male based on proportions. But the timestamp made her pulse quicken. 9:52 p.m. That was 2 minutes after the hooded man appeared at the door. Someone else was already inside, she murmured. The guy outside was a distraction. Danner rubbed his eyes beside her. So Pike wasn't alone? Or maybe he wasn't even the one who went inside, she said. Either way, she didn't die by accident. She was ambushed. By 8 a.m., the tech team began running the drive through their forensic software. Metadata confirmed it had been copied from Samantha's camera system the morning after her death by someone who knew how to access encrypted cloud storage, someone inside the neighborhood Wi-Fi range. The name popped up like a ghost in the logs. Clearcom ISP, account holder Arthur Pike. Danner swore. He pulled her footage before we even arrived. Calloway leaned back in her chair, frowning. He wanted us to see that clip. But why? The door opened and a uniform stepped in holding a small manila folder. "Detectives, we got a hit. Pike's truck was caught on a camera 15 miles east of town near Tanner Creek Bridge around 4 this morning. Vehicle abandoned, blood on the driver's door handle. Partial print match? Pike's." "Send a unit," Calloway said. "He's not running far." The bridge was swallowed in fog when they arrived. The truck sat half on the shoulder, engine dead, driver's door hanging open. Inside, the smell of iron and rain. Calloway shined her flashlight across the seat, a blood smear, a crumpled fast food wrapper, and a cracked cell phone. The screen displayed one unsent message. "They made me do it." She knew about the footage. Danner scanned the message. "They?" "Plural," Calloway muttered. "So there's more than one person involved." She leaned against the truck, rain dripping from the brim of her cap. Pike wasn't the kind of man who could orchestrate digital access or timing like that. He was angry, yes, maybe vengeful, but not organized. Someone else had guided him. Back at the station, Calloway started building a timeline. 9:12 p.m. Samantha arrives home. 9:47 p.m. Hooded figure appears at her porch. 9:52 p.m. Second figure moves inside. 6:42 a.m. Body found. But something still didn't fit. If the killer accessed her camera afterward, why send the footage to police? It wasn't guilt, it was control. A message. Danner slid a photo across the desk. Guess what forensics found under her fingernails? Calloway looked. A fiber sample. Dark blue, synthetic. Work uniform fabric, Danner said. Maintenance grade, possibly from a jacket. Her mind flashed to the night before. The man in the doorbell video, his sleeve glinted with a reflective stripe. Public works, she said, or utilities. City employees? She nodded. Someone who wouldn't look suspicious walking around late at night. 2 hours later, they were in the Clearwater Public Works Depot. The rain had turned to mist, dampening the rows of orange trucks and metal sheds. A supervisor named Frank Tilden greeted them. Gray hair, nervous eyes. Yeah, we all heard about Samantha. Terrible thing. Some of our guys did work on that block last week, routine sewer checks. Who was on that assignment? Calloway asked. He flipped through a clipboard. Let's see, Pike was there, part-time, odd jobs, and Jason Maris. The name hit like a hammer. Jason Maris? Danner said, as in Samantha's ex-husband? Tilden frowned. Yeah, but he's been here 6 years. Reliable guy, never caused trouble. Calloway's voice dropped. Where is he now? Tilden swallowed. Didn't show up for his shift this morning. At 2:30 p.m., a search warrant was in motion for Maris's apartment. Calloway walked through the cramped space, eyes scanning the small, meticulously clean rooms. Too clean. She opened the laundry basket, empty. Closet, half the clothes gone. On the kitchen counter sat a half-packed duffel bag, and beside it a city-issued rain jacket, a reflective stripe down the sleeve. Got him, Danner said, but Calloway wasn't so sure. If he's on the run, why leave the footage for us to find? Unless, she trailed off, studying the jacket. The inside tag was cut out, deliberately removed. She pulled up the city employment database on her tablet, scrolling through Jason Maris's file. No disciplinary reports, no complaints. But under his emergency contact, something strange. Arthur Pike. By evening, the pieces began to fall into place, but not neatly. Pike and Maris had known each other for years, bonded over work. When Samantha divorced Maris, Pike had just gone through his own restraining order case. 2 bitter men, neighbors, tied by resentment. But the footage proved something deeper. Coordination. Maris waits inside. Pike distracts outside. A 2-man setup. But the text message, the USB drive, the carefully planted clues, those spoke of someone even smarter. Someone pulling strings. Then Tech ran another scan on the footage metadata. Hidden deep in the file structure, an embedded line of code. It wasn't random. It was a signature. EC_log_01. Danner frowned. You think that's encrypted command log, Calloway said. Whoever accessed Samantha's camera wrote their own note in the data trail. Could it be Pike? She shook her head. Pike barely used email. No, this was someone with access to both their accounts, someone in law enforcement or cybersecurity. That night, Calloway drove home through sheets of rain. Her wipers squeaked across glass as her thoughts churned. Every case detail screamed orchestration, but there was one thing she couldn't shake: how she had been the one to receive that USB drive. At 11:08 p.m., she parked in her driveway and reached for her keys. Then she noticed it, the tiny red light above her front door, blinking. Her doorbell camera was on, and when she checked her phone, an unread notification glowed on her screen. New motion detected, 9:52 p.m. Her blood ran cold. That exact time again. She opened the footage. Through the distortion of rain and night, a figure stood on her porch, still, silent, facing the camera. Then, just before the clip ended, the figure lifted something into frame, a small USB drive, labeled EC_log_02.
Detective Erin Calloway didn't breathe for several seconds after seeing the live feed. The figure at her door stood motionless in the rain, the same posture, the same timing as the night Samantha Dale died. And the flash drive in his hand, labeled EC_log_02, glistened under the porch light like bait. She reached for her weapon, her eyes fixed on the phone screen. When the feed flickered back on, the porch was empty. The wind howled through the trees, carrying the faint chime of her neighbor's wind bell. She stepped out cautiously, rain soaking her shoulders, gun steady in hand. The flash drive was waiting for her, placed carefully on the welcome mat. She picked it up, feeling the chill of metal against her skin. No note, no footprints. Just that same label. By dawn, Calloway was back in the precinct, her clothes still damp, her pulse unsteady. The tech team wasn't in yet. She didn't wait. She connected the flash drive to the isolated evidence computer. A folder appeared, log02/play. She clicked it. The screen turned black, then static, then video. A camera feed, angled from above, showing a familiar space. Her office. Empty at first, then the door opened and a man stepped in. Detective Mark Danner. Calloway froze. He looked around, checked the hallway, then placed something on her desk. A printed photo of Samantha Dale's doorbell reflection. He sat, typed briefly on her computer, inserted a USB drive identical to the one she now held, and whispered something she could barely hear. EC_log_01 delivered. Then he looked directly at the hidden camera and smiled. The video cut off. Calloway's stomach dropped. She replayed it twice, 3 times, each time noticing more. The timestamp, 2 nights before Pike vanished, the deliberate glance at the lens, the faint hum of her office's air vent. It wasn't doctored. The feed had been pulled from an internal security camera in the precinct itself. "Danner," she whispered. "You son of a—" The door opened behind her. It was him. "Early start, you? You look like you didn't sleep." Calloway minimized the window slowly, forcing her voice steady. "Didn't." He set a cup beside her, smiling like always. "Any luck on Pike's trail?" "Maybe," she said. "Sit down a second. We need to talk." She pressed play again. Danner's face on screen filled the monitor. The real Danner in the room, the smile drained from his face. For a moment, silence, except for the rain tapping against the window. He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "You shouldn't have found that." "Why?" she asked coldly. "Because you'd rather I think Pike and Maris acted alone?" Danner sighed, leaning against the desk. "It wasn't supposed to be this messy. Pike was supposed to confess and vanish. Maris was supposed to panic and lead you right to the story you wanted, the hero detective unearthing the setup. You used me." He nodded. "I needed someone who believed in justice enough to chase it. You'd do all the work, all the digging, while I cleaned house." Calloway's grip tightened on her weapon. "And Samantha Dale?" Danner's eyes flickered. "Collateral. She stumbled into an investigation she shouldn't have been near. She was tracking misconduct records in the department's evidence logs. She found me moving assets. She was supposed to disappear quietly. But Pike was a drunk. He slipped. You killed her." He smirked. "Correction, they killed her. I just kept the narrative clean." He stepped closer. "Think about it, Erin. You release that footage, who looks guilty first? You. You had the footage, you sat on it, your camera logs prove someone was at your house last night. You want to explain that to internal affairs or the media?" Her pulse pounded in her ears. He was right. He'd layered it perfectly. If she turned in the footage now, she'd be implicated as the detective gone rogue. "I know you," he said softly. "You won't risk your badge." Calloway stared at him, her mind racing.
Then she said, "You're right, I won't risk it." She unplugged the flash drive, casually, as though giving up, and set it on the desk between them. Then she added, "But you already did." The office phone rang. He glanced down, frowning. On the caller ID, Chief S. Harmon, live channel 4 line. Before he could react, Calloway picked it up and hit speaker. The chief's voice echoed through the room. "Detective Calloway, we received your encrypted upload this morning. The footage is authentic. We've already looped in the state's attorney general. Sit tight, units are en route." Danner's expression cracked. Calloway tilted her head. "You should have checked which computer you were watching me on." He lunged for the flash drive. She moved first. A single crack of thunder masked the sound of a shot fired through glass. When it was over, Danner was on the floor, alive but bleeding. His gun kicked across the room. Calloway holstered her slowly, trembling but steady. Hours later, the scene was crowded with investigators. Rain still pouring outside as she gave her statement, her words flat, detached. She described how he'd confessed, how he'd tried to destroy evidence. The chief handed her a small plastic bag. Inside, the first flash drive. State Forensic Unit recovered hidden partitions. It turns out he'd been recording every case edit, every bribe, every falsified report, for years. She nodded, staring at the drive like it was radioactive. "Anything else?" she asked quietly. The chief hesitated. "Yeah, the techs found something strange on your home doorbell feed, just before you stepped outside." He handed her a printed still. The image showed her porch in the rain, but not Danner. Someone else, blurred, standing by the gate, watching. It wasn't Pike, it wasn't Maris, and the reflection in the wet pavement showed something unmistakable. A woman's figure. Long hair, slim build. Samantha Dale. That night, the storm finally broke. Calloway sat alone in her living room, the rain reduced to a soft hiss on the roof. She stared at her laptop, at a new email sitting in her inbox with no sender name. Subject line, EC Log 03. The message body was blank, except for one sentence. They thought it was over, but someone else was watching too. Her cursor hovered over the attachment. She didn't open it. She just leaned back in her chair, eyes on the ceiling, whispering to herself, "Subscribe before the truth disappears." And then the screen went black.